whoops, there we go. For the slight confusion on the last question, I think it's confusing because I, at the last minute, decided to bring real rulers and not my paper rulers, and I didn't tell you that because I'm a lying bastard. Sorry. So Tuesday, Thursday, ignore the, well, we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so let's go back to the quiz. All right. Okay, which one's the grade? This says 65-degree incline. This says my 65% climbing. Which one did you circle?
65%.
65%. By the definition of a grade, that's not an angle. It's a ratio of the rise to the run. Thank you, thank you. This is the one over here. And not only that, if you go and look up a 65-degree angle in that tangent table, what was the grade?
214.5.
214.5%. Make that with your arm. Make a 65-degree angle. So here's 0. Here's 0. Go up and make a 65-degree angle. I like Riders. Riders, I think, is pretty damn close to what it actually is. Because you think about it this way. 0, 90. Halfway is what angle?
45.
That's 45. So it's past 45. And it's about half of this again. So it's going to be, I mean, there are Cascade volcanoes that aren't that steep. Right? I doubt very much, actually, I'm not going to say, I know that thing is nowhere near 65 degrees. And if he had tried to ride that with his bike, he wouldn't have been alive to post it on Instagram later. So 65 degrees, but this is the thing. Jeep doesn't know that. They throw 65 degrees out there, and most of America doesn't know it either because they have no concept of what 65 degrees looks like. People get themselves in trouble all the time for not understanding mathematics like this. Ryder, go ahead. What you got? What you got?
I don't. I just, it's crazy that you can just throw that up there and be like, yeah, we did that. And
To take a slight sidestep from mathematics for a second, we are now living in an age where information is coming at you all the time, 24/7. Even when you're asleep, it's populating your phone. It's becoming impossible to fact check everything all the time. It doesn't surprise me at all that something like this slips through. As a matter of fact, the only reason you're doing this quiz is because somebody sent me this video on my Facebook page who said, how badass is this? I'm like, except for the math error, it's awesome. And I'm like, I'll make a quiz out of it. So I mean, but that's the thing, like I wouldn't even known about this. So God knows what else is out there that's saying, I mean, and we'll talk more about this as the class goes on, Ryder, too. But it's just, I think it's just sheer volume of info that's coming at us in this day and age.
yeah, but there's got to be like people sitting around being like, if for Jeep, you know what I mean?
I think the engineers are, but they're not the marketers. They're not the ones making the advertisements, right? They're the ones that are like, oh my God. Like if they knew about this, they'd be like, Jesus God.
Yeah.
So yeah, people do understand what 65 degrees looks like, but I doubt it's the ones in marketing. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like the guy who posted the biking video, he got it right with the percent, and it could have just been someone misunderstanding the difference between the degree and the percent.
Yes, but I have a bone to pick with Vittorio too, as my fellow Italian. It's okay, we'll get to him in a second. Thank you, Erica. I totally appreciate that, and I think that's exactly probably miscommunication. I think it's exactly what goes on. Okay, good. Now, let's not get everybody's measurements down here, but let's hear some of the measurements you got. If you want to tell me what your measurements were. Give me your grade for 3 and 4. Please, Eder, go ahead.
I got 7 centimeters for the rise and 3 inches for the rise.
So 3 inches rise and 7 for the run. So 3/7 is about 42%.
No.
Oh, sorry.
I did both. So 3 inches for the run.
Oh, I see what you said. Give me your grades then. When you divided it, what did you get?
When I got, for the inches, I got 54%.
54%?
And then I got 50%.
50%, which is very close to each other. Now, a lot of you are looking around as I heard 54 and 50, you're like, wait a minute, mine are nowhere near that large. Eder, and I think about half of the class measured all the way down to here and all the way across to here. And that's fine if you did that. I'm going to argue, don't change it if you did. As long as you did the same thing both ways, don't change it. I'm going to argue, though, that in order to get the true grade of this monstrosity, we probably should only measure down to here. Because at that point, oh, they fixed it. Because at that point, it stops tilting and becomes flat. Does that make sense, friends? Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Okay. Now, I seem to have lost my big-ass ruler that I was using last time. So I'm not going to have... get creative here. can use this big ass ruler. So here, I'm gonna call that 1 if that's okay. Close enough for government work. Okay, there's 1. 1, 2, 3, and a little bit maybe 3.1, 3.2. What do you think? What do you think that should be? 3.5. Let's call it 3.15. So my grade, not using inches or centimeters, but using whatever the hell you want to call this thing. My grade is 1 over about 3.15. What should I name this? Folders. F's. 1 F over 3.5 F's. Does it matter what I call it?
No.
Why?
Because they're the same.
And they're gonna?
Cancel.
This was a waste of ink. I apologize, environment. So now, we just divide 1 by 3.15. You're not English. There we go. Is that kind of close to what y'all were getting when you measured the inches and centimeters if you measured the same kind of place I did? Around 32%? We're not going to get exactly the same ones. Your measurement's probably better than mine because you had this awesome ruler that had little subdivisions. And I've got a big blue ass ruler because I assumed that calendar would still be in here, and obviously somebody took one look at that and tossed it. So there we go. It's about 32%, 31%, 35%, somewhere in that neighborhood. Is that fair? We buying that? It's okay. Okay, good. Okay, good. Now, question 5 on the quiz asked, and this is why I was talking to Will about this earlier. Depending on which way you did it, your answer's going to be different on 5. In question number 5, it says, do either or both of the values you got in 3 or 4 come close to the correct grade of 65%? Mine don't. Mine are about half of what they should be. But if you measured it all the way down to the ground, yours might be close. Do you see why I'm kind of doing what I should have done? I was telling Ryder at break. What I should have done was just cut the picture where I wanted you to measure it. I apologize. I should have done that when I set the quiz up. But nonetheless, it's all good. You still measure it both ways. So I would circle no. My grade that I just calculated is less than half of what Vittorio says it is, which is like a 10th of what Jeep says it is. It's ridiculous to think about what Jeep says. It's an 1/8, I guess, of what Jeep says it is. Okay. We okay so far? We buying this? Any questions, comments, concerns at this point? Okay.
Number 4, you have a mistake in.
I do!
Yeah, you say repeat 4. It's repeat 3.
Oh, shit. You're right.
But this is how my mind works.
I'm glad you do this, because I do proof these things. And imagine, I just proofed your exam, the first draft of your exam, and there were at least 24 mistakes on it. I guarantee there's more.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I fix my mistakes, I make mistakes when I fix the mistakes. I'm me. Remember I told you, even if I have a 99.99% chance of getting a letter in the right place, I type so many damn letters, it's a mathematical guarantee I'm going to screw them up. I'm going to fix it right now. I'm going to fix it right now. Thank you, Michelle. Don't you ever apologize for that. I have zero ego. Went to Catholic school. I can handle it. All right. Let's scroll. Now, you may have noticed this from the Jeep videos. Oh, good. You be careful. Think quiet. You may have noticed this from the Jeep videos, but Vittorio didn't show this on his bike video. They showed in the Jeep videos the Jeeps actually driving up and hitting the bottom of Lion's Back and then getting onto it. You might have noticed Vittorio didn't show himself. When the crazy music started thumping, he was already cranking along the way. So I started looking at it. I got on Google Earth and I started looking at Lion's Back. It's actually much longer than you kind of think it is from those pictures. And I started, as I zoomed in, and Google Earth is ridiculous. I just can't believe this tool is free. It's just such a neat thing. I started zooming and zooming and zooming and looking at it. And as I started looking down, I started noticing that it's not at all uniformly tilted. When you get down and look at it a lot, it's got this kind of moundy part here, and then it steepens here, and then it kind of a little corrects here, and then it dives at the bottom. I'm guessing that's from like wind erosion. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm not a geologist. But and this is Wingate sandstone, which is very, very, very hard. If you've got any rock climbers in here, that's a wonderful rock to climb on. Beautiful rock to climb on. Super, super solid. But the steepest part, which is the part I had you looking at, in your quiz on that front page, that Jeep on that front, or that Land Rover, whatever the hell it is, that is on the steepest part, the very bottom. It's that little horn that's right here. So that's the part you actually looked at. And what's so funny is I was looking at the comments on Vittorio's little feed there. Nice edit. Why didn't he ride the steep bit the first 100 feet? So other people noticed it too. Like, yeah, it's totally bad. I'm not trying to disqualify anything what he did. It's freaking unbelievable. But 31% or 32% grade. I rode up that this morning coming up Palisades Drive. It's 28% on Palisades Drive, and it was covered in cinders. So I almost slid backwards to Iowa because it was covered in cinders. So it's steep and it hurts, and I really want to do that now. And I won't be able to do it because it's closed, but that's okay. But the hardest part of the whole climb is that last little bit, and once you're over that hump, it actually gets much, much less than even 31%. So again, that number gets thrown out there right away. Now it's pissing you off. I can tell it's upsetting you, and I'm sorry. I don't want to piss you off. I'll upset you. It's all good. Okay, Shannon, yeah.
So with the number that they keep throwing around to be more of like the average?
Yes, except if you're going to use the average would actually be less than the one you calculated, right? Because the one you calculated was the largest possible grade. That means the other ones up there are going to be smaller, so the average should come down from that largest possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's almost like using an outlier to describe a data set. It's like a weight loss commercial. Like, this 51-year-old grandmother of 3 has the waist size of an 18-year-old. And then you look at the bottom and it says, results not typical. Well, why are you using her then? If results aren't typical, why would you use the outlier? Use the person that's like, yeah, I lost like 3 pounds. Because that's not a 51-year-old grandmother of 3. I mean, you don't want to use the outlier to describe the entire data set because it's not really fair, right? But I agree with your statement. It should, if it was truly and like honestly done. What did you put for number 5? I apologize. I apologize Tuesday, Thursday as well. I didn't bring, I had the paper rulers in my hand, and then Julie Keener came back from her Math 20 class holding this bag of plastic ones, and I'm like, oh, those are much better than mine. So the question kind of sucks because of the fact that you didn't use paper rulers. But what I was trying to get at was, why wouldn't it matter if you had a ruler that wasn't exactly matched to inches? Nathan!
Just because the ratio is the same?
Because the ratio's gonna be the same. As long as you use the same unit in the rise and the run, what's gonna happen to the units? They're going to cancel. As a matter of fact, you might not know this. If you had me in 58 and or 98, you might remember this. It's okay if you don't, because I didn't push metric on you too much. But remember in number 3 and number 3 and 4, I made you measure things in inches and then centimeters? Does anybody know how much bigger, how many more times bigger an inch is than a centimeter? It's one of those numbers you probably don't know because you don't think, unless you're a skier, you might not think in terms of centimeters or millimeters very often. 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. That's the conversion. So when you did your math in number 3 and you had rise inches over run inches, and then you did the exact same measurement in number 4, the number you got for inches is going to be that number times 2.54, but the 2.54 would show up in both places, which means it would cancel. It's all about the ratio, as Nate said. It's all about the rate. The ratio keeps it all consistent. It wouldn't work if you weren't dividing them. Because ratios are a pain in the ass, because you got to make sure you divide things in the right order, but they're also a benefit because the units take care of themselves, so long as you use the same unit. Now, what if the units aren't the same? We'll deal with that next. But does this make sense? This quiz making sense? I apologize for the last question, Michelle. I had that thought of like, oh, those rulers are so much better than my paper ones, but then the question was a little confusing. I apologize. Okay? All right, hand them up when you're happy. I'm going to turn the camera off. You're happy? Well, I'm happy then.